Originally, I was going to make a follow-up video about how Nintendo basically answered all of my demands and that I was really satisfied with the Switch 2. Unfortunately, the wind has turned, and the more I learn about the Switch 2, the less I care about that console. The price itself was pretty exuberant, and like most people, I reacted poorly to learning about it. Originally, I thought, well, the price is terrible, but it's a premium item, and I know that it's Nintendo. Once I get my hands on the actual product, and when I start having fun, I'm not gonna think so much about the price. In the long term, it's going to pay off. Not only is the console extremely expensive, but so are the games. We barely had time to adapt to $70 games. Now you're going to pay $90 for your games and $80 for the digital versions. And if it was only that. I've learned on the site of Nintendo of America that certain games will be key carts to be more precise. Not all carts will contain the game and will require a full download. No, it's not like the Xbox and the PlayStation, because they do have data on them. It's a compressed file that needs to be unloaded onto your console. The key cards have basically nothing onto. The same thing happened on Switch for a select number of games. That number seemed so low, however, that I did not know until last year. The Metal Gear collection is a good example. Being so large, it probably didn't fit all into one cart. Dishonest actors will say that it's not a problem. Physical media won't disappear, but noticers will understand that it's the first step for it to happen. There's a difference between a game box only containing a code because of memory limitations and purposely screwing over the customer over the ownership of their physical media. Square Enix has announced that the Bravely Default remake is a card key and not a game cart. It never happens in a day. It's always a slow crawl, and if you give the option to devs, of course they'll cheap out. Cartridges went out of style because of the price of production, and physical will go out of style as well. I can already hear people talking about how certain games being actual physical releases as a plus in their reviews. It's a disappointing turn of event. The price was a problem, but as long as you had the Nintendo quality, you could turn a blind eye if the result was good, but now, not so much. People will also talk about inflation. Yes, $60 games are not new. My mother used to find even $50 games expensive, but guess what? Cartridges were expensive to produce, but the consoles were affordable. There's a reason why Sony and Nintendo live on, but not Neo Geo. Nintendo games also used to lose value. There was player's choice, but also secondhand stores like pawn shops. Now, even in a pawn shop, those Switch games are still 60 or 70. They just remove taxes. Don't get me started on eBay or Amazon copies. Now their games stay the same price unless it's Mario Day and you get to rebuy the same games at full price when they get ported on the Switch. Even Sony and Microsoft have remakes be a lesser price. And again, the more I learn about this game, the less I care. Now the Switch and Switch 2 will have virtual carts. You need to unload a game using an internet connection to be able to load it onto another system. Unlike how it is right now, where I can just start the game on another console. Yeah, it needs to check for a connection and I need Nintendo Online to transfer saves, but now it's even more convoluted. You get the disadvantages of both styles. I didn't like the old system that much, but at least you could just launch the game. You didn't need to load and unload it. But that brings me to another point. Just switch to a system that actually makes sense. With Xbox, you just load the game onto another platform. It's seamless, but Nintendo needs to add extra hoops and make it seem like it's a good feature. When Nintendo does something good, they do it better than everyone else, but when they do something worse, they do it worse than everyone else. I don't understand why I can't just play from one system to another. If it's tied to my account, I shouldn't need to have to go through all these hoops. This console seems like it's preparing itself to be a long-term disaster that can't be enjoyed by future generations. What are you going to do when half the games are on game keys that don't actually contain any data? Whoops, you just had to be born at the time or have an interest in video games. Oh, and I almost forgot, the GameCube games. You know Nintendo will release these games super slowly. On top of that, like the N64, a lot of games will be awkward to play because Nintendo went for digital triggers again instead of analog. Some of these flagship titles use analog to vary the degree of actions in the game. You have a new console, why not course correct this? At least on the Pro Controller. It's a standard of Pro Controllers to have analog triggers and trigger stops to switch the function of said trigger. I don't want to play games anymore. I'll just emulate my texture packs on PC. Also, if tariffs are a thing, why is the console expensive internationally? The Japanese version costs less, but if you're a Japanese player and you want the international version of the console with all the languages and no region lock, you need to pay the same price worldwide. Who thought of this? Making a region lock version just for the Japanese players tells me that they understand that the price is too high, but are only willing to help their countrymen. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but that's a conversation for another day. I just wish that they thought about the entirety of their audience. Oh, and yes, you can actually opt out of the virtual card system. It's just that it's a really small disclaimer at the bottom of the video at the end. But overall, I've lost interest in the Switch 2. When Nintendo does something, they do it better than everyone else. But when they do something bad, they do it worse than everyone else. Right now, I don't care anymore. I'm just thinking about the massive ties of Emma Frost and Marvel rivals.
The White Queen's reign begins. You deserved that, dear. Mind crush! You were beneath me. Impervious! That's White Queen mind control.